Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 news, and going into the summer break, Mercedes have confirmed, at least for now, that they will not be changing their car concept going forwards. They like their current one, they believe there's a lot more to come from this concept, and with the regulation changes next season arguably favouring their design, they might well stick with it going forwards into next season as well. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you were new as always. Plenty, as always, to talk about with regard to driver drama. These are Daniel Ricciardo's performances in comparison to Lando, Norris so far this season. This though on the Alfa Romeo side, I think honestly guanyu's done a fantastic job all things considered in their team so far. I believe he actually has the lowest laps completed out of anyone on the grid, but of course largely not his fault. The crash at Silverstone was not his fault, and then of course many mechanical failures that Ferrari engine just seems to have in store every so often within the Alfa Romeo. But in terms of his performances, I think he's done rather well. Yes, in qualifying he's been outclassed by Bottas, he's been outclassed in terms of points by Bottas, but in fairness, since the first few races when the Alfa was quite good, it's been pretty bad, right? But in recent races he's started to step up his performance a bit. He's been going toe-to-toe with Bottas at times. He says the following: at the beginning of the season I was quite worried about my future, but right now I'm not too worried, and reckons there's no reason why he shouldn't get brought back into a contract extension, which I believe they are going to discuss effectively after the summer break, saying I feel like if I keep going the way I am, getting better race by race, I see no reason why I shouldn't be staying here. So I think that's exactly right based on his performance this year. This was though a big question that we raised because the Alpine seat is open. There is the legal drama which will be ongoing between Piastri, McLaren, Alpine to try and determine whose contract is valid, whose is not. Can Piastri go to McLaren? Does he have to stay at Alpine? Or what sort of settlement might be in order there? But the reality is Piastri will probably not be in the Alpine seat next season and probably will be in the McLaren seat, whatever it's going to cost McLaren to get that to happen. That means Alpine will need another driver. The leading candidate, of course, is Daniel Ricciardo going the other way. There are other options though. Pierre Gasly was theoretically an option. Now, we heard the rumours that came out a couple of days ago that there's an exit clause for Gasly, whereby if a team above him or above AlphaTauri in the standings gives him an offer to leave and go to another team, he can just take that offer freely, and that's a clause in the contract that allows him to leave his contract if that were to be the case. Apparently though, that clause does not exist. I'm not really sure where that came from. Apparently Franz Tost at AlphaTauri said the same thing as Helmut Marko has just said earlier today. There is no such exit clause for Gasly. There was none before the summer break, and there will be none after the summer break, right? So saying that, yeah, Gasly is locked in. He's going to be there for 2023. That's just how it's going to be. Whether or not Alpine give him a deal next year, he's locked into the contract. Unlucky, mate. You've got to stay in this absolute tractor for another season. And even Franz Tost from AlphaTauri says the following: it makes no sense for Red Bull to let Pierre go. If a driver fails, there's no adequate driver who can step in. If a Red Bull driver fails, no adequate driver that can step in. Only Gasly can do that. So kind of saying that, like, look, he should stick around here within the Red Bull AlphaTauri ecosystem and then maybe get Perez a seat back in the future. But yeah, I don't know. Gasly's probably thinking that that seat's not going to come free and it might be considering other options. But the Alpine seat doesn't seem to be available due to the contract clause actually not existing after all the drama. So, I mean, yeah, another bit of strange situation here in the silly season. This is another one actually. Poor Chair, one of the most promising drivers currently in Formula 2. He's in, well, I believe he's doing a pretty good job right now in the championship, but he's been there for now his second season. Young French driver that might well be on the radar for a team like Alpine. It could make a fair bit of sense, but he actually said yesterday that it's his last F2 season, his second year now in F2. He's not going to go for another year. Financially, it won't be possible. It's not a good solution. So I guess he's got to hope that he either shows enough promise or Alpine take the punt on him. That's how he can potentially get an F1 seat, because if he doesn't, that could be his time over in Formula 2. So that's a name to keep your eyes on for Alpine as well. Another one that of course has been going around is Liam Lawson. He's shown a fair bit of promise. Also a Logan Sargent as well, potentially in the Williams seat, has been something discussed instead of Nicholas Latifi. But honestly, it might be more and more likely every day we don't hear rumours that Latifi might actually keep that seat for next season. I'd say it's still less than 50% chance, but still, like, every day comes around and we hear no rumours about Nicholas Latifi's future. Now apparently Liam Lawson from Formula 2 will get an FP1 run with AlphaTauri at Spa, and Ferrari's trying to find sessions for Schwartzman, who's kind of one of their younger drivers that they want to try and promote through the ranks as well. And Piastri, it's kind of funny, was supposed to drive for Alpine either at Spa after the summer break immediately or at Monza, I think 2 weekends after Spa. But yeah, of course, that is more than likely not going to happen anymore. Of course, yesterday we discussed Lewis Hamilton, right, and what he believes his future will be. We said that effectively he's got so much left in the tank, he wants to keep competing past 2023 2023. He did clarify, though, that he doesn't want to quit when he's completely burned out. He doesn't want to go until, his dying days of victory, right, when he's absolutely had it and he's driving around at the back of the grid. Like, he doesn't want to go to that point when he's completely done with the sport. He wants to retire before then, so he's setting some sort of limit, right? He doesn't want to go for another 10 years, but maybe 5 years, right? He wants to retire before he's completely burned out of the sport, but, still long enough that he can still enjoy it, and as he says, he still feels challenged by it and is enjoying the sport. So one of the big topics going on right now is with regard to next season's technical regulations. We have the TD, the technical directive, coming in for Spa, and Total Wolff and others have been very interested to see what this might do to Red Bull and Ferrari with the flexi floor no longer being a thing. I believe other teams did say that there might be some workaround for it, but who knows? Obviously they've done it with the intention at the start of the year of gaining a performance advantage. Mercedes, I guess, didn't think it was possible within the loophole in the regulations. Now they're clamping down on it. Total Wolff and George Russell have said that maybe 2/3 of a second could be the difference that will make, at least in terms of bringing Mercedes back to the front. So as a result of that, Mercedes seem confident that their current car can be a front runner as it currently is, and they believe there's plenty more to come from the car as well. We heard the rumours the last few days of Lewis Hamilton saying that, look, the team should not rule out the possibility of going with another concept. The no side pod design, side podless design, whatever you want to call it, they've gone with this year is very different indeed from what Red Bull have and from what Ferrari have especially. Both of those cars, for the majority of this season, have been much faster and still are on paper in both quali and race pace as it presently stands. Mercedes obviously have got it wrong to some degree, but finally, after fixing the porpoising issue, they're starting to extract the potential from this car that they saw in the wind tunnel and also in, I guess, the simulations before the season began. Andrew Chauvelin has said that they've ruled out, at least for this year, copying a rival's design. He's saying they're not 100% guaranteed to be sure that, look, this is the route we're going to take forevermore and pursue forevermore. They want to remain open-minded about what they want the car to be. So they're still not saying that down the line, a couple of years' time, they might change their mind on what the car might look like. But by sticking with it so far this season, they have validated that the development route they are currently on can deliver more, and that's a route that is starting to look like it can deliver a success and deliver us race wins this year. There is no doubt that by sticking on our current path, by and large, will be the thing that gives us the best performance this season. So not saying 100% that next year they might not change things, but I think more than likely they will stick with this concept going into the future as well. And he's kind of confidently saying that this way we are going and the development route we're on and the amount that it's delivered us already and might well deliver Mercedes in the future gives them a lot of confidence that they can win races with this design and also still be the best car with this design as well, which obviously is crucial. I went on to say the following: if you try and make your car look like someone else's, we will lose performance in the short term, right? Which obviously is true. The other team understands their car design better than, the team that's going to copy it does. Yes, you might gain that back in the long term, as he says. Maybe there is a long-term gain, but in terms of what this year's car looks like, I think we've got a decent idea of where we want to take it and also how much performance there is to come. We are quite excited about what we can bring in the next few races. So this is rather kind of not necessarily ominous, but it's rather interesting, isn't it? Because the TD might close the gap a little bit. Maybe it's not worth the 2/10 the Mercedes think it is. Maybe it's just worth 1/10 of a second a lap or something like that. If that's the case, then maybe Mercedes are only 1.5 tenths behind the Red Bull or something like that. And then they have further upgrades to bring as well. And the upgrades they are excited about and quite excited is quite, optimistic really, because usually Mercedes aren't going to say too much. They're going to say, yeah, we're trying, we're kind of confident, but not really sure. Saying they're quite excited about these upgrades and saying that they know how much performance there is to come in the car makes it feel like they've maybe done further simulations or test runs or whatever, that they do think that with potentially further upgrades in certain directions that their car can still be the best on the grid with this current concept and with this current design. And therefore it also kind of adds credence to the idea that more than likely, after spending all this work and development time and research working on this year's car and extracting the most they possibly can with further upgrades, going into next year, are they really just going to throw that all away and go for a Ferrari concept? It doesn't seem particularly likely to me. Especially because Ferrari and Red Bull, who are currently designing their year's cars, aren't going to be copying Mercedes' idea because it hasn't worked, right? So they, if anything, if they do have the best concept Mercedes, they're going to have at least one season next year where they just get to show that off to the world and don't have to worry about Red Bull and Ferrari copying it, because who would do that right now? If they still do believe Mercedes that they have the best car design under the surface and under the issues that the W13 has had more often than not so far this year. The other talking point around this, of course, is the fact that the new regulations are coming out. Now, Ferrari and Red Bull have opposed this quite vehemently, but it seems like a compromise has been reached and the new regulations have been submitted to the World Motorsport Council. Now, look, if that gets confirmed and approved, then the 15mm raising of the leading floor edge will go through and with some other changes, which is rather in line with what Mercedes recommended should be done to combat the porpoising. So that might well favour Mercedes' design over the others if Mercedes were suggesting things to the FIA that would benefit them more potentially than other teams. Of course, that's purely speculation whether next year's rules will favour Mercedes more than they currently do, but that might just be one more reason why they are probably going to stick with this design going into the future, I would imagine. And that was kind of what was a compromise apparently reached recently for a 15mm floor edge raise, which apparently is kind of similar to what Mercedes initially proposed, a bit more of a compromise than they wanted. I think they wanted a 25mm raise, which is also what the FIA proposed. So it's all rather interesting. Red Bull and Ferrari probably not happy, but might have kind of been forced to agree to the compromise. Whether they go ahead and take the FIA to court or whatever they were kind of saying they wanted to do, not really sure about that one. Quick word on Ferrari before we close out the video. Former Ferrari boss kind of says that, like, look, obviously something is wrong at Ferrari, despite the fact that whatever Binotto says to the public about there being no issues and nothing to change, like, that's obviously not true. He's got to get to the bottom of it. That's his biggest challenge, right? So we shall see in the second half of the season. We know they've got the car. They don't have the reliability. They also don't have the strategy to win a championship. They're miles behind Red Bull and Verstappen as it stands. And honestly, even closing the gap between Ferrari and Red Bull from now to the end of the year would be a success, all things considered. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you are new as always. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.